In this episode, the couples are on vacation and we see Oskar and Meira having breakfast, and Meira is nudging him to try yogurt. So apparently, he hasn't liked yogurt since he was a kid. So now, in this moment, she's realizing that they actually have differences. Wow, he doesn't like yogurt. It's not that big of a deal. Oskar asks her if there's anything that she's finding difficult from the past to now, and she says she feels like it's scarier now. Oskar feels like she's trying to find reasons that they will not work out, that she's building up fears about them being different. And he tells her that they can't get stuck on, their fears of the future. Meira continues to question her choices. She wonders if, how things would turn out if she had chosen Johan. I don't know what it is about Johan. There wasn't really anything that impressive about him that I'm aware of, other than the fact that he liked to take photos. Like she had mentioned that she wanted somebody who could take her selfies, and he enjoyed photography. But outside of that, what was so great? I don't get it. But she keeps questioning that. And so, to me, she comes off as somebody who usually takes her time to make decisions. And this kind of process kind of forced her to make a decision sooner than she would have. And so maybe that's the reason why she keeps questioning things, because she's not used to, rushing into decisions right away. So maybe that's it. Emilia feels like her and Lucas have some chemistry, but he's not at the same pace as her. She wants to touch him and kiss him, but he's not really initiating anything. So tonight, the couples will meet each other for the first time. Catja tells Christofer, for whatever reason, that she's looking forward to meeting Rasmus. And so he froze, and his eyes are all big, and he's just looking. Now, why would she say that? Because Rasmus was one of the people that she had, one of the front runners for Catja. And now Rasmus is with Krisse-ly. So it's like, why bring up Rasmus? So he's just looking. So anyway, I just don't understand why she would say that. But anyway, so we see where the couples later on in the evening arrive to the location where they're going to meet everybody. When Emilia meets Christofer, she was like, oh, he's handsome. And she says that she likes man buns and she likes that he's tall. So she's kind of getting her eye full of the other men. When Rasmus arrives, you can see a visible reaction from Catja. She's just looking. Her eyes are like big, like she's just looking. And so she's looking very intensely at him. Rasmus in the confessional thinks that she's beautiful. She has the most gorgeous eyes. Christofer says Meira is beautiful, but Catja is the apple of his eye. So I guess Christofer, I don't remember if they had a connection at all, but I'm guessing the reason why he's saying this is because they did at some point have some in-depth conversations. So when the host Jessica comes out, she has some little icebreakers or whatever, softball questions, and then she asks about their physical touch. How has it been? Krisse-ly and Rasmus both gave the thumbs up. Of course, they have like nonstop PDA, so there's no issues with those two. Rasmus says things have been great, and from everybody else, it's kind of like crickets. So then Christofer speaks up, and he says he's happy to be out of the pods, and he turns to the table behind him to take a sip, and the host is like, oh, that's it? Catja, meanwhile, says nothing. She's just smiling. So next up, Oskar says there's a difference between, him and Meira being in the pods compared to how they are being outside, and so they're trying to piece things together. So when it comes to Lucas and Emilia, he says that things have been challenging, and you could see her like looking like she's so shocked to hear this. So Emilia is blindsided by this challenging comments. But he goes on to say that it's a big step from talking to being in the same space and touching. And so she asks if it's the same for both of them, or does it seem like unbalanced? And he didn't really answer the question. He just said that he felt safe and they're moving forward. And Emilia didn't really contribute anything to the conversation. She just nodded. She didn't really say anything else. But you could tell that she didn't really care for the response. So he is definitely going to be in the doghouse for that. So we're told that there's 4 weeks till the wedding, and they have to decide if they will say I do. Then the host leaves, and then the social really begins. And so the couples kind of get to chit-chatting with each other. In the girls group, Amanda tells Emilia and Krisse-ly how Sergio almost didn't come. Krisse-ly's like, I just don't get this guy. What is wrong with him? And I was like, my sentiments exactly. What is his problem? So while they're chatting about that, then we see the camera pan over to Sergio with the guys in their little group, and he's laughing really hard, laughing louder than everybody else with his mouth wide open. And I was just looking because you could tell with the guys, he's the one who's just doing too much. And I'm like, whatever it is, it's not that funny. Calm down, Sergio, really. So I just don't really get a good impression from that guy. And up to this episode, I still don't really care for him either. Meira joins them later, and Krisse-ly tells her that he's heard all good things from Rasmus about Oskar. And then she goes on to mention how Johan was trying to make Oskar doubt her. She mentions that she hasn't heard anything about that. And Krisse-ly was like, yeah, that's because that's how great of a guy he is. He was going to bring that up. Later, Amanda is back with Sergio, and he tells her that he feels like they're the it couple. And I'm like, by whose anointing? How are you the it couple? You're the biggest jerk in the group. Like, how? We like Amanda, but not you, buddy. He is so full of himself. So Catja talks to Meira, and she tells her how they're having a hard time reconciling the pod Christofer with the real Christofer, and Meira says, she's kind of having similar issues. Meira says they only talked about the similarities that they had when they were in the pods, and then now she's seen the differences. She tells her that she struggles with the idea as to whether she made the right choice. Now, if she keeps doubting the choice that she makes, it's really going to turn Oskar off, because he's already annoyed that she is so unsure of everything already, but he's trying to be patient. Meanwhile, Oskar is chatting with Lucas and Amanda, and he mentions the struggle that they're having, trying to get through the process. He mentions concerns about whether they're in over their heads, and, he doesn't really have a concern. He's, mentioning that Meira is the one who's concerned. Meanwhile, we see continuous PDA with Krisse-ly and Rasmus, and everybody's just looking like, dang, why couldn't I have that? So when the guys are in the group by themselves, Sergio talks about doubting things with Amanda, and he told them that he told Amanda that he was not prepared to come. So Sergio is telling them how he questioned whether to give her a chance and how it looked shitty here and there. And I'm like, where? And why would you say that? I'm sure at some point Amanda will see this conversation, and I wonder if she will feel differently about him and him saying these things. What has Amanda done for you to feel like things are shitty at some point? What is this guy talking about? I just don't get this guy. Christofer, in hearing these things that he's saying, he says he feels like Amanda is being misled. And I definitely feel his concern. I wouldn't really say misled per se, but I feel like Sergio is very disingenuous. I just don't feel like, he's really being honest with Amanda. So Rasmus brings up how sex is crucial for him in order for things to work. And so Lucas brings up the issue of intimacy and attraction in the relationship. And he says that, he needs more time to build the attraction. He goes on to say, seeing her in the public setting and how she navigates that and how she gets along with people kind of makes him, helps to grow the attraction for him. And he admits that he's holding back. So at this point, he's not really into Amanda like that. He likes her as a person. He recognizes the qualities that she has, the positive attributes that she has, but the physical attraction is just not there. So back in the girls' group, they take turns talking again. Amanda tells the girls what happened with Sergio and the concerns that he had about her not wearing the bracelet. him not getting a ring. And Krisse-ly says, that man gives me weird vibes. She's definitely concerned for Amanda. And Sergio is definitely, there's something about this guy. Krisse-ly reveals to the girls that she gave it up the first night. And Emilia was like, didn't we talk about not doing that? We're going to wait and all that. And she says, she planned to. And she had mentioned that to Rasmus, but he was so sweet and respectful that she couldn't resist. Like, she ended up doing that. So we can see the chemistry is obvious between the two. Whether the relationship itself will be similar is to be determined. Everybody was like, all the girls were like, no way, you gave it up. So somebody was asking like how big or how long or whatever. I don't know who asked that question, but we didn't hear an answer about that. Emilia asked on a scale of 1 to 10, how was it? I didn't hear a number, but based on the answer, we can assume that it wasn't that great, it being a first time and all that. But she's not really concerned about, the quality of it. She just feels like it's just because it's the first time or whatever. So in this episode as well, we see where the couples, each couple go on a one-on-one date. The following day, we see Sergio and Amanda trying to find each other in this garden maze. Nothing too interesting happened here, except for they were yelling back and forth, trying to locate each other. Can you hear me? Where are you? And so when they got to the end, they found each other. He claims that they're one of the most advanced among the couple. They are the most advanced among the couple. And he had mentioned how she was smart because she jumped over some hedges to get to him or something like that. So he at least gave her a compliment, unlike Catja. But anyway, nothing much interesting here. Meira and Oskar went for a lunch in town, and their interaction was kind of dry to me. She asked him if he could see her fitting in with his family and friends, his family, and then she mentioned the Chino guys. So when they had first gotten to their room, she had ragged on him about the chinos because he wears a lot of chinos. So here she's bringing up the chinos, teasing him again. And I don't know if Oskar is really finding it funny or not, because he says, well, a lot of people dress this way. What do you mean? So she goes on to talk about feeling like an outsider there in Sweden because she's an immigrant. And he never thought that them having different backgrounds would be an issue. She feels like, it's something that they can work on, however. He asked in what way she's concerned about being able to fit in and her ability to fit in his circle. She said she mentioned concerns about being able to fit into his circle, and he asked in what way. And she said she doesn't really know how to explain it. So he mentions that he has, some experience or some issue, I guess, in feeling like an outsider, because he says he felt alienated as a child because he was bullied and he didn't have a lot of friends. So in that sense, he can, I guess, somewhat relate. Meira seems to be very guarded to me, and I'm not sure if it's just her personality or if she's just not sure of things, if she's just unsure of things with Oskar. But yeah, everything is just real dry between the two of them right now. Krisse-ly and Rasmus go on a date at the orchard. They're picking oranges and they're having a picnic there. We see where they juice the oranges, and I guess they're making the mimosas because they had wine as well. She says she hasn't found anything about him that has annoyed her. She feels like the relationship has been strong since they meet, and especially stronger now since they met the other couple. She's scared that things are so perfect between them that, something will happen, because she feels like nothing in life is perfect. But she will enjoy these perfect moments that they have and to bring them and remember them in the times to come when things might not be so perfect. We see Emilia and Lucas. They're at this bathhouse. And when they get done, they go out into the courtyard, and things are a bit tense and awkward between them. They're not really saying a whole lot. The only thing we see as far as anything promising is Lucas had his hand on her leg, but they're not really talking. He offers her wine, and then they talk about how good the wine is. But other than that, yeah, awkward. Emily says that she's not going to chase him. If he needs more time, then that's fine by her. So at the end of the night, we see where Meira and Oskar in the bathroom. She says she feels like they're like an old married couple because they're doing their little nighttime routine together in the bathroom. She says it feels fun but also scary in the confessional. Oscar doesn't really seem too happy. There wasn't really much being said after they initially got in the bathroom, and then she left him in the bathroom to finish up. She didn't really say anything after when she exited the room. So yeah, in the confessional, Oscar said that things were very hot and cold between them, and you could see. I don't know that I don't see the hot parts really. She's polite and all that, and she talks, but I just don't see the closeness. So hopefully something will develop at some point. Krisse-ly and Rasmus have a romantic bedtime with candles lit, unlike everybody else. I mean, the difference is stark between them and everybody else. So the next day they meet on the beach. We see the couples come out one by one, and it seems like they're going to go on a day trip or something, but for the rest of the episode, they're spending this time on the beach. I don't know if it's just a setup at the beach and this is where they're hanging out, or if they're going somewhere else. So anyway, we see Krisse-ly, she hugs Meira, and then she points to Oskar and says, "Well done." She's so sweet. And then we see where Sergio asks her for a hug, to which she obliges, but we know that she doesn't really like Sergio like that. Then we see Catja and Meira go off to have a chat. I guess they're best buddies in the group. And we see Christofer with his bandana on, and we could hear one of the girls say, "That damn bandana," and they both laughed. So I don't know if it was Meira who said that. I couldn't tell, but let me know if you could tell who it was. So Catja says that, doesn't Oskar look like Per Lundström? And then there was a period of silence, and Meira said no. And then Catja said, "Well, Per Lundström is good looking," and Meira said, "Exactly." And I was like, oh my God, are you trying to say that Oskar is ugly? That man is not ugly. So they were over there snickering together. And then we see where Oskar looked over to them, and then they were snickering and waving back and laughing some more. I'm like, that is not nice. The guy is not ugly. And we see Oskar talking to the guys, and he says how things are up and down with him and Meira. Catja goes over to chat with Rasmus. And Rasmus thanks her for the conversations in the pods and tell her that she's a nice girl. And she likewise enjoyed the conversations in the pod and says, it was great to meet him in person. And she asks him how he feels about himself and Krisse-ly, and he mentions the concern that Krisse-ly also had about things being so good between them. And he fears that when reality hits, something will surface, and he feels like definitely something will come up. And she agrees as well. He asked her what challenges she thinks that he and Christofer will face. And the first thing that she brought up was that they live in different towns. And the second was his job, because he's a DJ and he's away evenings and weekends. And she could foresee with that schedule that she would be lonely. And I think that's a concern for her. She says she doesn't really want to give up right away. And Rasmus reminds her that wedding day is a month away. She's like, yeah, I'm just reminding you, just saying. So she has decisions that she needs to make. I mean, that's a huge deal if that's his job and it's going to take him away. And on top of that, they don't live in the same city. That would be kind of hard to coordinate and make time, on top of the struggles that they're having with, chemistry and whether she likes him or not. So Christofer chats with Lucas. He brings up the issues that they're having. Lucas feels like the villain for not giving Emilia what she wants, but he doesn't want to get intimate with her when he's not quite feeling her, and rightfully so. If he's not sure, he shouldn't really go there. He says he likes the qualities about her, which makes it worse that he doesn't feel the attraction, and he doesn't really know that the attraction will ever come. He's worried about that. He asked about Lucas and Catja. He asked about Christofer and Catja, and he mentions that feeling like, she's not as attracted to him as he is to her. And finally, he's admitting that something's not right between them, because he's always saying, oh yeah, I feel so validated. I love her so much. I'm looking forward to this and that. But then now he's finally admitting that how his feeling is not reciprocated. He also mentions that how he always, compliments her a lot. He kind of showers her with compliments, and she has not given him a single compliment since they met. Ooh, my word. I didn't realize that he's never gotten one, but yeah, that is telling. And so Lucas had asked him if he had mentioned these concerns to Catja, and he said no, and he suggested that she voice them to her as well. Christofer, okay, so Emilia says she's not sure what to do when she's talking to Krisse-ly about the concerns and the lack of intimacy and him holding back and doesn't seem attracted to her. And Krisse-ly says he just wants to go and shake Lucas. But, of course, he's entitled to how he feels. When the girls are back together, Catja says that she has a feeling that Rasmus... So in her starting this sentence, she meant to talk about Christofer, but she says Rasmus. And I was like, ooh, what a Freudian slip. But Krisse-ly didn't seem to be worried about it. They all laughed. But she says she feels like Christofer is always one step ahead of her. And so that is her concern about the whole thing. Sergio went to go chat with Krisse-ly and claims to not remember their conversations in the pods and asked her to remind him. So she goes on to recount his jerkish behavior. Because firstly, he was like, did you yawn? And she's like, no, I didn't yawn. And he was like, yes, you did. And she's like, how do I prove that I didn't yawn to somebody? And so she also mentioned how he was, a jerk when she asked a question, why do you want to know that? And so he was the stupid things that he was doing in the pods. And she was like, who the heck is that guy? So when she was going through her experience with him in the pods, he was just laughing. He was just cutting up. It was like he was amused by the fact that he was being a jerk. He was getting so much enjoyment from that. And Krisse-ly also mentioned how they were bickering, because of his jerkish behavior. And she also says that, Krisse-ly also said in her confessional little interview that she's having a hard time getting a grip on this guy, but she's not the one who's marrying him, and she is so happy for that. He goes on to tell her that he likes to make jokes, he said ironic jokes or something like that. And then he goes on to say he's a person who likes to provoke, and we can tell, and it's annoying. Krisse-ly is concerned for Amanda and fears that, she doesn't want her to experience the chaos that she might have to deal with Sergio. And I just don't see what Amanda sees in him. I don't see it, and I don't think Krisse-ly sees it either. Emilia chats with Christofer, and he says how hard it must be for her with the physical, and she asks if he, if it's similar for him or if it feels familiar, and he tells her how great she is and how Lucas is happy to be with her, and he tries to, I guess, cheer her up about the whole thing. And Meira, we see Meira had a chat with Christofer. Yeah, Christofer is making his rounds, and of course she's griping about Oskar. Says he's a typical Swedish guy, sailing, lives on a farm. What does that have to do with his personality and, a potential relationship? That doesn't make him a good or a bad person because he sails and lives on a farm and all of that. She wonders how she will introduce him to her family and whether they will like him. And she says she's not really there yet. And she says if somebody were to ask her right now if they would marry, the answer would be no. So, ooh. Yeah, she has a lot of decisions to make. And I feel like a lot of the concerns that she has is almost as if she's overthinking, or maybe she's just scared that she's bringing up all these things in her head that she could see as potential issues, but I feel like it's not that big of a deal that she's making it out to be. Anyway, we see that the next steps are going to be the couples moving in together, so we'll see how that goes. But let me know your thoughts on the episode. Like, comment, and subscribe.